the lead intuitively. I felt inspired. But I felt like I was being inspired from up above. And if you look at this particular painting, on the right-hand side here, you could see the artist. Okay, the artist here, he's holding a palette. He has a brush up here that he's holding and a canvas that he's painting on. And over on the other side of the canvas, you have the muse, you have the sitter, which after I looked at this painting when it was done, I said to myself, "My God, this is incredible." Here is the muse painting in these golden colors for the most part. His one hand, or her one hand, is bluish, and both of the hands are shown open. They're open. Um, and for me, that indicated that, this muse, the divine, was openly giving me this gift of this painting. Uh, and of course, I had to put the work in for this to occur. But I just felt so enamored with this work when it was done. And then I saw some other symbolism in here as well. But the golden or yellowish part of the muse here, or sitter, also indicated to me a definite divine influence. And she has no distinguishing features in her face. And I think that also is indicative of her being a symbol of the divine and inspiring me and encouraging me to paint. Um, and I found myself painting in this Cubist style, which for me very much complemented what I was trying to do here in this artwork, which was opening myself up to divine inspiration. But then I looked at the artist and what this artist was doing. And, he's painting this small portrait here of her. And if you look at the context of uh, for me, it's kind of like a building right behind the painting. And it's like the canvas itself becomes a doorway into this building and an entry point into uh, kind of the infinite beyond, uh, the source of the inspiration, and representing both the tangible, the material, the reality of painting, plus the mystery of it. And I always felt this mystery behind artworks. I was introduced to art very young by my mother. She would take us to art museums. We would look at the art, and I always felt like, wow, these artists, where do they get these images from? And after I created this piece and all the other pieces in the series that I created afterwards, um, I felt like I now know where this inspiration comes from, how these artists are able to put these kinds of compositions, colors together to make a very coherent artwork. And obviously, here I am very much affected by Cubism. Uh, I very much enjoy Picasso and Braque and Cezanne, where Cezanne really started that type of using geometrical shapes in his artwork, and Picasso picked that up and developed that further with African masks influencing him and Iberian sculptures. And yeah, his artwork always feels very alive to me. And in many ways, I feel like this artwork behind me here does also capture that freshness that he was able to get on his canvases. And I can't take credit for it. I really can't. There's no way I could have created this on my own without, I believe, a divine influence. But I'm very happy to share this with you. I hope it's inspirational to other artists. I hope this gives you an insight into my artwork and the process that started me on this series. I want to talk about how Pablo Picasso influenced me and has influenced me in my development as an artist. Now, there are many reasons that I have been influenced by him. One is that his work is based on historical artists of great significance. Uh, as a child, he became rapidly recognized as a genius. When he was about 15 or 16, his father entered him into the academic school in Spain, and he very rapidly excelled, and he was painting work like master artists in a very short period of time. Now, he got bored with this. You know, this as a young genius and prodigy, he just felt stifled, and he went off on his own. And in many ways, he was a self-taught artist, which no one really talks about. But he was very much influenced by early Spanish masters and Cezanne, who also was very influential, and he was influenced by African sculpture, Iberian sculpture, and he decided to go to the museums, and the closest one in Madrid was the Prado, and they had Spanish masters there who had their artworks on display. Artists like Goya, Diego Velázquez, El Greco, and they all influenced him. And he spent time copying their artworks. That was where his education was taking place. And there's one particular artwork by Velázquez that he painted something like 68 different times, made sketches from it, Las Meninas. And those are still on display in his own museum at this time. But the important thing to take away from this is that when he copied these Spanish masters, he was absorbing all of their techniques, what was codified into their artworks. He was gathering information and knowledge about all the symbolism that was in their works. And he carried this into his own work. Later on, after the blue and rose periods, he began to create cubism with Brock. They both worked together to create the style where many different perspectives of a subject could be seen in one painting. Now, this was a very significant art movement. But before we get into that, again, I just want to say that he drew in so many different types of influences himself. And then as he went on, he started to create his own styles. And I say styles because he moved through different periods during his whole life. And he was very courageous to do so. I mean, he could have just, sat around and made Cubist painting after Cubist painting because people were already collecting his work. So that's one very strong aspect of his work that really has attracted me as an artist. Cubism itself fascinated me. It's like taking a sculpture and figuring out a way to get a 3D image onto a 2D canvas or paper, whatever medium he's using. But not only that, but he had a energy, he had a spontaneity that comes through so clearly in his works. His work looks like it was created yesterday. And that immediacy also is very attractive to me. And uh, it makes it timeless in many ways. His work itself has I believe, a very strong spiritual quality. Um, Now, why? Um, Many would argue that his lifestyle was far from spiritual, and I'm not here to judge him. But this artwork itself is very laden with spirituality. And some of the women who were close to him said that uh, he himself was more religious than the Pope, which is a very funny observation, given his theatrics and uh, debauchery, some would claim. But nonetheless, his work has, in my opinion, a very strong spiritual type impact, and that also has attracted me to his work. He says it took him a lifetime to learn how to paint like a child, and I could see that in his work. He's constantly on the hunt to discover something while he's working. He's pushing boundaries. He's playing around with the paint and different type of pictorial vantage points. And it makes for very, very creative and interesting work. And uh, and I think that the source of my artwork is at this time in the last series I've created, which includes this one behind me, is very much along the same lines of where the source of it comes from, the source of inspiration. Um, some may agree, some may disagree, but